And 3, 2, 1, boom. And we're back with another episode of Scrap Gamers. The episode brought to you by Zen Real Clothing Co. Pick your tees and accessories at zenrealclothingco.com. And be sure to check out the free Zen Real radio playlist, also on zenrealclothingco.com. If you decide to purchase something, support the podcast as good patrons do, be sure to use offer code Socrates at 20% off for 20% off select items at checkout. I can't seem to talk today. This is very, very difficult. It's like the 10th time I try to do this intro. And if you're located in the Scarborough Port Union area of Toronto, check out the Port Union Bakery. They got amazing baked goods, baked daily and crafted with love. Some things to look out for are the donuts, which were voted #1 in Scarborough via Blog TO, and also their delicious empanadas. Okay, so yesterday was Diwali, and happy Diwali, Vish.
Okay.
So, all right, I know it's the Festival of Lights. We were talking about this prior. Just like what exactly is Diwali all about in your perspective? We'll go like what you've researched, and then we'll go, your perspective, and then what you've researhed. So, to you, what does Diwali mean?
What does it mean to me specifically?
Yeah. Like Thanksgiving when they...
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's just a time for family to get together.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
That's how I view it.
I meant with like the Thanksgiving thing, because like they like, what are you thankful for this year? Or like, what does this holiday mean to you? You probably never did that.
Nope.
Okay. In Catholic school, that was like a big thing. Like what does Lent mean to you? What does like Christmas mean to you? And there was only one right answer.
Okay. Yeah. And that is
the solidifying commitment to our Lord Jesus Christ.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, but nobody... Well, I wasn't into that, so I never said that. I was like, I don't know. Presents.
Yeah, that's true.
People don't like that, Nobody likes the truth. They're like, that's so selfish of you. Did Jesus teach you to be selfish? No, but Santa did. All right, so historically, what is Diwali? Like, what does that fall under? And you were talking about like festival lights.
Well, yeah, it's more a festival of lights, or like the metaphorical stuff: light over darkness, good over evil, knowledge over ignorance, that kind of thing. It's kind of, I think the story is about like when Ram and Sita come back.
Okay.
After like defeating Ravana. So.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. So when we first talked about, like, for so many years, I always asked you the same question, like, is this your Christmas? And you were like, when I asked you that again, you were like, how many years have you asked me this? But also at the same time, it's like, kind of. And then when you were describing it, like good over evil and like the return, I was like, it's actually more like our Easter, because like on Good Friday, Jesus gets crucified, and then 3 days later, Easter, he rises from the dead. So actually, I made this click when you were describing again, like they vanquished, say it again, they like vanquished evil. They came back, and after vanquishing evil or something like that. So like allegorically, you can look at it like Jesus came back after having overcome our greatest fear, which is death, because like we want to live forever. So like that's actually, like, come to think of it, that's actually why people follow Christianity and Jesus and all that, because like at the heart of it, it's about like overcoming death, because you'll live forever in paradise in another world. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's not really, well, I was gonna say, like, that's not really what your Diwali's about.
It's it looks like it's like a mixture of whatever's happening around this time with Christmas. It's like,
oh really?
Yeah,
it's like become westernized.
No. I mean, like, no, I'm saying like the historical meanings of it, because like I looked up what Christmas was about, like like the original stuff, which was not during Santa. The Roman time, which was about the winter solstice, and again, it's like. It's the end of this is like the last day before it starts to get long. The days get longer again. It's like light over darkness. It's like more light over darkness. Okay. Again, it's like,
well, it's pretty allegorical.
That's what actually, I'm saying. Yeah. So it's like it's very similar to.
Well, if you actually look at it literally.
Yeah.
Light over darkness.
Yeah. It's like, literally. Yeah. It's literally that. Yeah. That's what they're celebrating. Because the days start getting longer from that point on.
Wow. Like a lot of like ancient civilization stuff, like the pyramids, like the ancient sites, like Göbekli Tepe and
Mm-hmm.
what do you call it? What was the big Stonehenge?
Oh yeah,
That's about like crops and stuff. Like
yeah. It was. I think all these rituals were more around farming.
yeah, farming. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, crops. Farming. Yeah.
Yeah, the farming was the main thing. So when it's all about date keeping, understanding
Yeah.
when
calendar.
when the seasons change and when we can look forward to the next thing. So I think is it on the 25th that they get to go to the Stonehenge too? Is that
I don't know.
like
Maybe.
when
That'd be so ironic if it's like these like dates are very similar. You know.
I think it's all about that timing. It's that.
But what makes sense because like farming is how you get resources.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course, you'd want to like make that.
These are the
special.
Basically these are the original gods.
Yeah, totally,
right?
totally.
So like even with the Hinduism thing, like the Ram and Sita story could be like newer in the sense of that time, even though it's a very old story. But it's like maybe there was older than that, which was surrounding around the winter solstice, like.
Right.
It could be even, you know what I mean? Like, especially with the Göbekli Tepe and saying that we're even, like, human knowledge or history of it was much more older than what we currently think.
So, okay. So, at the time, so if you read Graham Hancock's books, it's all about, like, these 7 sages. And, like, they went around teaching, like, farming to these. So, like, there was, like, let's say in America, there was, like, an America-style civilization, and those were the Atlanteans. So, but not in like the weird fictitious thing. Like Graham Hancock talks about it like it was just a seafaring nation. Like it wasn't like they had like crazy UFO powers. They might have, but who knows? But like they just traveled throughout the sea, right? But then there was like a giant catastrophe that like struck the earth, like a comet or something. And then when the majority of the civilization dies, who's going to survive except the hunter-gatherers, right? And then they went around teaching these like hunter-gatherers how to do farming. So like if that story is true, it's weird to think about the progression of the timeline that they're like, okay, we need to teach these like unsophisticated like hunter-gatherers how to farm. So let's tell them a story. And we need to like govern their civilization. We need to like make it so you can't just kill everyone. Let's just create a story, right? And then like, and then we created things like religion, which like are basically a codification of those stories, right? But wouldn't it be ironic if you look like very far back in history and it's like, oh no, this was just us trying to make sure that you guys didn't kill yourselves, you know?
Right.
But we're gonna do it in like a fairy tale way to make sure you don't forget it. You know, and then we took it so far.
Right. Yeah, it'll evolve on top of each other. Yeah.
But it's like wouldn't it be ironic if all these like world religions now were just based off of like tales that they spun to make like dumber humanoids remember lessons that are important. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
because it makes you wonder like why are we celebrating all this like holiday stuff? Like what is a holiday?
Right.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, why Christmas? Because it's like we've just societally accepted it to be something that's special.
Yeah, and we really relish like tradition and
yeah, totally, yeah, exactly,
things like that.
Yeah. But in speaking of that, actually, that brings up like,
but it's a positive too. It's like I mean, in a busy time or in a busy world,
totally.
That it's a way to bring family together again.
It forces community.
Yeah.
But again, if you look at like us being like silly humanoids, it's like, of course, you're going to create something like, oh, we'll create a holiday so that they'll feel good about getting together. But it's like, why don't we just get together? Like, well, why not? Why wouldn't we just understand that it's important to communally get together? You know, you can't tell somebody that like, oh, it's good to like spend time with your family. You're like, oh yeah, that's important information. But then you're like, oh, but now we're going to have Christmas. So it's a reason to like, you know what I mean? We can't just take the truth of the matter. We just have to like fictitiously romanticize things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. But it's also like, I mean, it's people don't get holidays, right? So it's like it's a way that the government sets it up
totally,
where you all hit the holidays in the same time. So
totally. But it's like, so then why couldn't you just make them like, here, these are a bunch of days off?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what that is, right? I mean, specifically, was it in February for us, Family Day, specifically called Family Day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a very like secular thing, but it's interesting because like there's supposed to be a separation between like God and state, and it's like doing things like Christmas that has nothing to do with
Right.
like separation. It's
Yeah.
a total like combination of like
Mm-hmm.
church and state,
Yeah.
but also at the same time it like segregates other people or like ostracizes them because they're like, oh, you don't celebrate Christmas. Like you growing up, like you had a different religion and like different holidays,
Sure.
but then it kind of forces you to like join the melting pot,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. You know what I mean? It's like you have like ingrained systems of Christianity and everything we do.
I think in India they do all of them though.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
So you get Christmas off, you get Diwali off.
you know why? Because they like days off. They're like, you know what? We should just spend more time as our families.
Well, it's more like that. I think it's like for like during the school time, it's like you generally are in school. Maybe you have a month off at most. Not like 2 months here, but like, but because you have so many days off throughout the year.
Right.
So that's how that works.
Wait, sorry. You said you get 2 months off? No, you don't.
No. Like we get 2 months. Like, I think they get maybe a month.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of so many holidays that happen throughout the year.
Right. Okay.
Of a school year.
Interesting. So they like break it up.
Yeah. So you're already getting the 2 months or the extra month throughout the normal holidays.
Like that's such a telling sign of like American power that like even in India, you guys don't believe in these things, but we're celebrating Christmas. Actually, like universally,
but there are
we all
people there
celebrate.
that celebrate, right?
No, totally. But it's like.
Well, I've heard people, even some people like who are Hindus, they also just go to the church too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, when I heard that, I was like a little bit weird, but I was like, no, it's like that, accepting all of them, right?
Yeah, true.
So just like that, somehow that happened to some people. Some people do that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you went to church with me before, remember?
Yeah. I had no. Yeah, exactly.
You're like curious. You're like, what?
I was
is
curious.
this?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, great, I get to like entertain myself rather than having to.
Oh, but exactly. But then all that I saw was similarities.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. It's like if you trace all of these back and they have the same origin, and then it turns out that it was because of these like ancient civilizations, that'd be pretty like ironic that it was an attempt to educate us through like children's stories. But I guess we do that even as kids,
Yeah.
We do like children's stories, but just some people just continue believing in the children's
Well,
story.
the thing is, I think the best way to tell moral stories for kids is through stories.
But then what does that say about like our like
But that's how we've
intelligence
evolved,
later
right?
on?
I think that's how we've evolved. I don't know if a kid would understand if you just told them
No, you
the
won't.
moral
No,
story.
no,
They won't.
you won't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
So that this is how we evolved by like these campfire storytellings.
totally.
This is the way we can communicate. I mean, watching movies or shows, that's the same thing. That's how, for me, I'm learning about another person's experience.
Totally. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there's like totally. But the difference is that it's a story.
Mm-hmm.
But then some people can take it super far and they're like,
Yep.
I believe this like wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also there.
And we also looked up the because you were saying that like Christianity is the biggest religion. So I still have the stats here. 31.2% is Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
They're the biggest. And then next is Islam, which is 24.1. Then Hinduism, 15.1.
It's just funny.
And then Buddhism, 6.9. Folk religions, 5.7, and so on. Oh, and Judaism is 0.18% of the world.
They're very small. Yeah.
Wait, which one? Judaism?
Yeah.
But what I find really interesting about these numbers is that if you look at like Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, you should combine them because they believe in the same God.
Right.
They
I see what you mean.
worship
differently.
Yeah. But they believe in the same stories.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like Judaism is
not exactly. Like I would say, like the Jewish doesn't believe in Christianity stories, nor the Muslim stories.
So what do you mean though? No, I mean,
you know what I mean.
The
like
characters
they have they have the same God, but there are levels to it, right? So it's like the Judaism wouldn't agree with Christianity nor Islam, but then Christianity follows from the Old Testament, right?
Yeah.
But then they create the New Testament.
Part 1, part 2,
Yeah.
and
So,
part 3.
but then they don't agree with Islam,
Right. Okay. Yes.
the stories of Islam.
But
then Islam includes all three.
because it's the newest iteration.
Yeah.
So okay, I get what you're saying. So it's like the part 1 believes it ends at part 1, part 2 believes it ends at part 2, part 3 believes it ends at part 3.
It's like, yeah, it just reminds me like, no, I liked the first movie. I didn't like the second one.
It's if you take it like that.
I like all trilogy. The whole trilogy was good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and like, but they're all
Anyway.
referencing the same original God, which is the
Sure.
God of
Yeah.
Abraham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think you can categorize it as the same. But I see what you mean by.
But it should be like, I don't understand. Like I understand that they want to separate themselves, but also at the same time, it's like you're following the same. Like it's sort of like we believe in the same, or I don't know how to put this, but like, you know what I mean? Like they all three believe in the exact same God, but it's like the characters in play that service that God are all different.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. I mean, yes, we can say that, but they wouldn't agree to that.
Yeah, but that's a myopic viewpoint. They're looking like specifically at their text, but it's like just read all three of them. You'll see that the story continues. You know, but I'm speaking from experience too. Like, it's not like,
I know. Yeah.
You know, like, that's why I find it weird. And then what's interesting too, if you look at this Hinduism and Buddhism one, Buddhism came from Hinduism, so it's like really in this chart of like, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stats here. That's all that came up. It should really be boiled down to like those three should be one and those two should be one.
Well, I think if you categorize it as Abrahamic religions, I think that would.
Oh, okay.
That would consider all three, right?
Would it? I don't know.
Yeah, because it's an Abrahamic religion.
Okay.
For those three to be under that one category.
Right.
And then dharmic religions, is that the right word? I don't know if
really. That's how they say it.
Yeah, because even in India, like with this thing, Hinduism is a term that was created by the British, right?
Okay.
Because it's not like, even within India, there is some differences in the way you celebrate. You have similar festivals, but the celebrations are different in different areas, and so it's more like tribes of different versions. They have similarities. There are some differences, but because the British didn't know, or they didn't, I think if they more studied like the different areas, there are differences, right?
Yeah.
But very few. But again, it's like, I think they would be called dharmic religions, I guess, under that category, versus like it was a umbrella statement of calling it Hinduism.
That's so interesting that you call it like dharmic religion, because like a dharma is like your path or something, like your
I think that's the term.
Walk.
I'm hoping I'm correct on that, but yeah.
But yeah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
If you look at, I wonder where like Tao. No. I know exactly where. Zen came out of Buddhism, because the person who invented Zen was he was one of, you know the story of like Buddha's final what do you call that, like his final like speech. So like at that speech he didn't say, like everyone's like, oh my god, Buddha's gonna say something, and he didn't say anything, and then he just stared at this flower, and then like this person in the crowd started laughing, and then he called that person up and he gave him the flower. He's like, you understand. And that person that was laughing created Zen.
Right.
Like that was the branch. But I don't know where Taoism falls under that, because that one's like a Chinese specific philosophy. Yeah. I think Taoism isn't even it's not even a religion, it's like a philosophy. Like it's like compiled by this philosopher, the Tao Te Ching or something, and then like he compiled like these universal laws that he saw.
Right.
Yeah.
So dharmic religions, like they also include not just Hinduism, but Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism.
But aren't those all? Oh, Sikhism is on this list, but isn't that Jainism? Is that from Buddhism?
Jain, I don't know too much about Jainism, but they do have like Jain temples. There are different.
Yeah, I know
they have
non-harm. Oh no, it probably
they-
comes from Hinduism actually.
It is a form of that, yeah. They are much more non-violent. Like there can be extremist non-violent type of people.
Do Sikhs believe in Muhammad?
No.
No, okay. So that's completely separate. Because I know there's like a lot of like issues between like Sikhs and Muslims.
That's just a historical thing and not a religion thing.
Like a geographical thing.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because there was a lot of clash between them. Because it's in the northern India where they're mainly at, and that's where Muslim and Sikh clash was there, and especially during the separation when they created India and Pakistan.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of the Sikhs and Hindus left Pakistan to come to India, and vice versa for the Muslims.
Like what? Asylum or belief systems? Like why
when
did
they
do
created the
that?
two countries, basically, Pakistan was mainly Muslim, Islam, right? So
okay,
people felt that they would not be safe there, so there was a huge like shift of people moving,
Right. Oh, interesting.
which created that's why I think there's a lot of
It's weird how like belief systems are often another way. Actually, I just read this in this book. I finished it, Magdalena, the one I was reading about Colombia, and like one of the lines that I liked in there was like he brought he was going to bring the printing press on top of the sword because he knew that the printing press was the infantry soldier to the sword, because it's like, yeah, you can like conquer through like might, but if you conquer through education, it's way more different. You know, because you're attacking them at their core, which is their understanding of how the world works.
yeah. Once you change the story that they believe in, or narrate their version of what you want them to believe in from your.
You know, also that's what the Lutheran Bible was. You ever hear that? Like,
it sounds familiar.
So like he like only priests could read the Bible at that time, and then Martin Luther, not related to Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, he like translated it for everyone, because he's like humans can read this. It doesn't have to be like priests.
Right.
You know, he tried to like break the mold. Do you think we're turning more into like a secularist world now?
I think so.
You know, through like the internet, especially.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the internet.
I mean, there is a segment fighting back that are very religious. If you want to look at the Trump side of it.
True. Like we were just watching.
So there is a significant people on both sides, but I feel like it's leaning in the secular side.
But which I find like really weird, because it's like you were showing me some stuff. Oh, pull up that tweet that I asked you to screenshot.
The Trump one.
Yeah.
Oh, like what the guy said?
Yeah.
So yeah, how much more could you want from a president, a leader, a man chosen by our Father in heaven, similar to Moses leading God's people out of bondage from Egypt, governed and ruled by Pharaoh, and he will continue to do so. We are God's people, and this and Israel are God's chosen nation.
Yeah, that's very odd to me, because it's like you took a reality TV star and you like deified him. You actually deified him, you know? Like, it's very odd.
There's a significant portion of people that,
And I don't understand it, because it's like, again, church and state. And also, is he moving in the manner of Christianity? Or is he just playing to your like expectations and your whims?
Right.
You know, like, it's like, we need a man of God. Oh, I'm a man of God. Oh, we need support for the military. Oh, I'll support the military. It's like, it's almost like he's just like.
I don't understand.
You know?
I don't understand the blind belief that this guy is actually religious or Christian.
It's
like,
very odd.
there are questions I remember when they asked him, well, I think it was in one of the religious ones when they were interviewing him, and they asked him, what is your favorite verse from the Bible? And he just said the whole Bible.
And they're like, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
it's like
excellent.
he doesn't know. Well, in my perspective, I don't think he knows the Bible. So
Totally. That's why I said the whole Bible.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, the whole thing's good. Actually, what's really weird. So if you think, all right, so one of my aunts, very like Catholicism, Christianity is very rooted in Filipino culture.
Yeah.
And I guess that's also why I like rebel against it, I guess. But like, she was posting like, I will vote for the candidate that exemplifies God or like believes in the rights of God. And I'm like, so if they just say anything related to God, you're just gonna vote for them? You know what I mean? It's like
Right.
it's gone down to your belief system. Has nothing to do with the person. Has nothing to do with policies. It's all about like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
are you a man of God?
Yeah.
It's very odd to me.
Yeah. That is.
And it's like, how do you prove that? How do you break that? You know,
Right.
Like if I kill someone, I'm like, but I'm a man of God, and they're
Right.
like, okay, true.
Right.
I'll let that one go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it makes no
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I just, yeah. I feel like some critical thinking is super important. Objectivity.
But it's still very relevant to. I mean, even the side on the Democrat, they still have to say, "God bless America," or
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they still have to do
So
it.
weird. So weird to me.
Yeah.
And like, I like that Tulsi Gabbard did like the Diwali thing.
Mm-hmm.
And did the other person do it too?
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything from them,
Okay.
but
like,
I didn't really look thoroughly.
But I like that she did it.
She's always doing that. I was
It's
kind of
good.
shocked at how like.
Because it opens up room for other religions, which is what we don't have. Like it's like it's sort of like this. Like it's like, hey, we're a very open and accepting like space, right? If somebody told you that, and then it's like you walk in the room and they're all identical, it's like, what do you mean open and accepting?
Right.
You know, actually, it makes me think about workspaces too, because like having been in certain situations where it's like, oh yeah, we're like an open and accepting organization, and then it's like you look around and you're like, this is a little weird. Like, I guess that's why they say like diversification is like super important. Diversity is super important, you know, because it like I feel like you can send signals without saying certain things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I feel like if we're all looking the same, but we're saying something different, that's just straight hypocrisy. That's why I like what Tulsi Gabbard did. Like, she's at least like her being like a politician and like representing an alternate religious viewpoint. That's great. You know,
Yeah.
surprised like, you know, Kamala Harris didn't do it. Maybe she's not. Like, maybe she's Christian too.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knows? So like whatever.
Because there is that too in India. It's not like everyone's in there.
It actually reminds me of like the children, like not children, the when we were in elementary school and they're like describing like mosaics and melting pots.
Yeah.
Because like Trudeau did the whole like he's always doing cultural stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, oh, that's great. Like, you are actually open minded.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, there are not just one type of Canadian that follow one religion. We all have different religions, so it's like it's good for a leader to also like to show that, I think, because these are all people of your country.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. You're not playing to the majority.
Yeah, I mean, I did see Donald Trump tweet out "Happy Diwali," so
all right, shout out. Like, you know, but he's
I'm not
going
sure
for
if
that
it's
vote.
him specifically, but it could be his
But
team.
he's going for that vote. See what I mean? He's just like, I'll just
Well, no
go
vote right
wherever the
now. It's
wind-
already done.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah. But I was listening to Gadsad on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he hates Trudeau, and I was like, I don't get it. But he's like, oh, he's like the bleeding heart liberal that like he's just pandering to whatever. It's like this it's like too open minded.
Okay.
You know, like, I mean, we make fun of it too, like with the whole like Foxkin thing. When I started seeing that, I was like, that's a little weird. Like,
Right.
you have to draw the line.
Right.
Like when the guy was like, oh, I identify as a fox.
Sure.
You know,
I also don't think he's as liberal as they all say.
Trudeau.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but it's like, why are you
Like,
paying him out to
yeah,
be
it's
this
like
negative
I
guy?
look at the way he's dealing with the economy or things like that. He didn't like he has to deal with the oil stuff in Alberta. I mean, I would say who's more liberal would be like the NDP and stuff, or the Green Party,
yeah,
right? They're
totally.
much more on the other side,
Yeah,
much more left. He's like right in the middle in the sense of he's on the left, but is also thinking about, well, we have the oil sands, we have to work
Yeah.
with that, we have to like. get some money from that too because we wasted a lot. So it's like
totally agree with you.
he's like,
that's why I didn't understand this like Gadsad point of view. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like,
Yeah.
what kind of person do you want then?
mm-hmm.
Like a super freaking conservative person, or like I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, like
And Trudeau's in a tough spot too because a lot of liberals don't want to deal with the oil sands stuff. I don't want to say a lot of them. I would not agree with that actually. There's a significant loud minority that's speaking against it, but like
yeah, I know. Yeah,
there is a lot of people that.
But like yeah, so it's like
you have to think about the country trying to make money too. It's not like
yeah, you have to look at objectivity.
Yeah,
objectivity is always key because it's like we need money, so like you can't run this off hopes and dreams. You know.
Yeah.
Like I get the whole. Like Jagmeet Singh, like I was seeing the comment because he's like, oh, we fought for CRB being the same amount instead of it being like dropped, and I'm like, no, that's great.
Yeah.
But then somebody like commented, I was reading the comments and like they were like, oh, Mr. Infinite Funds over here, and I'm like it's a public good. Like, what about the people that don't have jobs? Like the person that commenting that, yeah, sure, you still have your job, but what about all the other people that don't have their jobs? You know, it's just it's mind-boggling. It's like anti-maskers to me. It's just like mind-boggling.
Yeah, right.
Actually, I saw this on Joe Rogan. They were talking about like masks not working, like, and I was like, I don't like. What do you mean it doesn't work? If you're wearing a mask, I'm wearing a mask. It's going to like stifle some of the spread,
right?
You know, he's like, oh, but it can still get out through the sides. It's like. Yeah, but it's better than not doing anything.
I think they're talking about droplets, right? Like the mask is like stopping the droplets.
Well, say it again.
The masks are preventing you from, like spitting out the droplets, basically.
Yeah, totally.
That's what it's doing.
But like, I don't understand why it's such a big deal to wear a mask.
I don't know. Yeah, it's such a
odd.
Yeah.
And like us being the little brother of America, like you see some people, like I've seen 3 people now not wearing masks indoors, and it's just like, I don't get it.
I would say the idiocy of it is trickling down from America here.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the problem.
But I get it too. It's like if you're a business and you're disenfranchised because you're like, oh, because I heard this when we were buying the yoga props yesterday at like the sale that they're having, and they're saying like, oh, it's so annoying because like you'll open up and then like 3 days later, like, oh, you gotta close down. So it's like, how does that help businesses? I'm like, no, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Like, it is what it is. Like,
but,
you know, like,
but
what
you
are you
also
do,
get
bro?
a lot more people dying if you do open up, right? Like, I think in Ontario now that the numbers are going higher.
Actually, like, let's talk about that because you were like all for Sweden, but now you switched. So, like, explain why you switched.
So my thinking was, like, now that we're hearing that we're getting even closer to the vaccine, it's more like.
Sorry, let me just preface. Like, Sweden, as in like they didn't do any.
They didn't do as much of a lockdown.
They're just like, okay, we can let it do it. Herd immunity. They were like the case for support for. Herd immunity.
So, but they do have the highest amount of deaths in the Nordic nation, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because they didn't do a lockdown. Well, the other ones, just like Denmark and Norway, I guess, they did do lockdowns, so their deaths are very low. So I think in the generality sense, I think that it should be more like looking out for your own citizens' lives and not like economics necessarily, because
that's why I like now that champion Trudeau.
Right. So now it's like it's more about like we're getting closer to a vaccine where it's like if you do enough length of or doing these lockdowns, you will prevent more people from dying, and then we'll get to the point where we have the vaccine.
Totally,
you wouldn't have the high number of deaths if you did left it open.
So like basically the 2 schools of thought were, like Sweden went for herd immunity because they didn't think a vaccine was going to come anytime soon. But then, like Canada with its lockdowns, we're doing like lockdowns because we're hoping that a vaccine will come soon. And now that the vaccine's right underway, it's like it's a better outcome in terms of fatalities as compared to Sweden.
Right. Yeah.
Because like they were under the assumption that a vaccine wouldn't come.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know what their underlying thinking was. Probably that too. Yeah. That, but like now that we're coming to the end of the year and we're hearing that the vaccine's almost here, so it's kind of like better to do these lockdowns. And I feel like in America, they are the highest number of cases in the world, and I think this was the reason why Trump lost, was because of the handling of the COVID. And I would think that they would need to do a lockdown now till that vaccine's out.
Right. Well, we'll see.
I don't know. We'll see.
The other thing, so the vaccine is 90% effective, and there's no side effects so far that they see.
Mm-hmm. They're still waiting for approval and all that kind of stuff. So even if it does come here, there's other approval stages that has to go through here as well.
Oh, okay. So it's not just gonna be like we're just gonna.
I don't think so. No, because we have our own health team here that has to look at it too. Like even with the rapid test that they are bringing in here, they have it here, but they haven't given it out yet till like they're still testing it in our end.
Oh, okay.
To see what the rate is at of positivity rate.
I like that. Like even though we're in like a crisis mode, we're still thinking in terms of like objectivity. It's like, okay, we can't just go willy-nilly and give everyone the vaccine. Let's see what the actual
I would think so. Yeah.
ramifications of this thing are. Right. Speaking of which, because you're talking about the rapid testing, Elon Musk got 4 rapid tests in like one day, and then he was like, "Oh, this there's something wrong here because I got 2 positive, 2 negative." And like so Tara's explaining how just the way it works, basically it's if you have COVID, you'll test positive, and that means you have COVID. Right. But if you test negative, it could still mean you have COVID. Right. But that's rapid testing. But then within our like own like friend group chat, it's funny to see like, like Walt being like, oh, like the most you can assume that most people have COVID. But then I was like, this is rapid testing, not the actual testing, But and then like you're in this, and then you were like setting a bunch of things straight in that chat room too. But it's like if we weren't there to intervene, it's like you just being like the spiral of like misinformation, building each other up, and it's like
sure, yeah. But he was asking the question.
Totally. But all right, so like I would say our friend group is quite objective, right? But like, what happens if you're not objective? Right? Could you imagine like these like echo chambers that you're in?
Yeah. It happens all the time. Yeah.
Like even like. I was thinking, like, oh, there's no way this is gonna happen. And then seeing it in our friend group, I'm like, whoa, that's weird. But what if there was no objectivity in our friend group?
Yeah.
Did you see this new YouTube video, bro? You know what I mean? Like, oh, the lizard people are going to like,
right?
It's like, oh, I believe it. What factual evidence? It was like reading that UFO, the 12th Planet book. I had to stop it because I'm like, there's no evidence here. You're just like saying things, right? But people take that as like the UFO Bible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they want to believe what they want to believe, right? That's kind of what that is versus what's actually true.
True. Yeah. Which actually goes back to the whole religious thing that we started this whole conversation.
That's true.
About,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, I don't know. I am hopeful that the future will be more objective.
But yeah, let's see. I mean, Trump keeps fueling that fire of voter fraud when the thing is like,
his comments like, what is that? Like,
yeah. So that's also creating more of that echo chamber, because it's like, if you only listen to this guy and he's already made you think that all media is fake.
Yeah, and I think that there's voter fraud. Yeah, and that's what they're saying. Like Mike Baker on the Joe Rogan podcast, like the real damage is in putting doubt in the system, because it's already out there. Now people are just gonna like fuel the fire of doubt.
Yeah, and that's what he's doing, Trump.
That's why I go back to my theory. If he was actually a Russian plant to show the fallacy of the American system, he's doing a great job. Like saying like, oh, like voter fraud, and it's like, so then what about in like the next 4 years after that? Is there gonna be voter fraud? Like, I don't get it. Like, what does that mean about like all the past elections? Was there voter fraud there? Like, why are you gonna introduce that? It's kind of weird, Right. You know what I think the issue is? It's like most people are married to their ideas. Like you with the Sweden thing, it's an interesting case study because it's like you were all for Sweden, right? And then you change your opinion, and it's like, yeah, because you're not your self-identification state isn't based off of your belief system.
Yeah.
It's just like ideas and beliefs are malleable, you know? And like that's the heart of objectivity. It's like, no, I read more evidence and like saw different opinions, and I'm like, oh, actually,
The thing is, even at that time, we don't know everything about the virus.
yeah.
And
So
we were still learning.
was a good idea.
Yeah, we're still learning about the virus.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that we knew everything. Even like when they say like, oh, Dr. Fauci, like the one that was working in the White House, is like saying not to wear a mask, but then a couple of weeks later he's saying to wear a mask. Well, there's a reason what happened in between there. Science keeps adjusting it based on new evidence. So this is how you should be thinking, and not like he was lying then and not lying later. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. But it's like, it goes back to like people marrying their ideas to their identity. Because it's like, why do people believe Trump is the second coming of Christ? But then when they see other things, they're going to negate it. You know?
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not really...
Right.
That's not him. You know, you're like, what? You're like not looking at the objective evidence and truth.
Right.
Because it will somehow break the foundation of who you are psychologically.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like, I'm a Trump supporter, and then like, oh, he's doing something bad. And then it's like, well, I still have to support him because my identity is wrapped up in being a Trump supporter. Or not even if you're not a Trump supporter, it could just be like, I'm a Republican supporter. So it's like, even if you're Republican, but you're going to vote for a bad president,
right?
Because you're Republican, that makes no sense.
But then I did show you the other one where there are people, but this is the thing that he's a great marketer, where there are people that don't like his rhetoric, the way he talks, but they feel like he's speaking for the little guy.
Oh yeah, this thing too. It's so silly. It's like,
but I get it though. Like, way you listen to it, because the way Biden talks or they talk, majority of their supporters are like college educated people. Yeah. Well, the other side is not.
Totally, yeah.
Right.
We talked about this, and then the stats came out who voted for who. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, lower educated people voted for Trump. Why? Because they're not going to like think critically about this. You know, they're just like. They're like, he talks like us, and he blah blah blah. But then, what does that really mean about? But
they said that it feels like he's thinking about us. Like, it's the feeling thing. He's hitting them at the feels where they.
Yeah, but that's not objectivity. That's just right. You're ruling by your emotion.
Exactly.
You know. But also, if you think about it, technically, in saying this, like in me saying that, it created some sort of class system between like educated and non-educated. But that's the reality of the situation. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, you think you're better than us? Like,
well, it's mainly between it's the white non-educated, or college educated versus the non-college educated. It was in the white group, because if you do look at the other ones, it's like majority of the minority groups, who don't also go to college also voted for Democrat.
Okay.
So let's
probably because of the racial thing.
Yeah, like, I mean, there is majority white people in America, so
yeah.
We're mainly talking about the white college educated and non-white college educated. That's what that was about.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But like, and I mean, like, I always bring up this story of like being like firsthand experience. Like, this was so mind blowing to me. Like going to Montana, shout out Montana, love you guys. But going there and then them actually thinking, like, first of all, they didn't know where we are on a map.
You know? I don't understand that.
I mean, no sense. I was like, what? For sure. And then, do you guys actually live in igloos? It's like, really? You're gonna ask me that? You know, like, what? But I get it. Like, if you actually look at like the makeup of that place, it's like very rural. Yeah, they got like nothing. Like the primary thing there is skiing and snowboarding. Right. So it's that's all they do.
They don't get taught about the world. They just get taught about America. If anything, they get taught about.
Yeah, true. And then Walt brought up this point. He's like, oh, are you like, can you name some place, like some obscure place? And I was like, no, but we're also not like direct trading partners with that place. Right. So it's like, you probably should know something about your direct trading partner.
Yeah.
You know, like I might not know everything about America, but I know generally where, like, do you not have internet access? Like, I don't understand, you know?
Yeah. But like, it's not what they're looking up, right? It's not, I don't know.
Actually, oh my God, I just remembered this story. Oh my God. Oh, it like totally brought. So we were in this like ski town kind of thing in like Montana. Shout out Montana, love you guys. And then like we went to dinner with the mayors like of that area.
Okay.
Because it's like a very small area. So
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
Like he was like some, I don't know, mayors, like something like political in there.
Okay.
Like there's only like one bar there. So like,
Yeah.
and everyone knows everyone. So like, oh, come back to our house for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So we went, and it was just like I was the only non-white person there.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
very odd.
Yeah.
And they were like pretty religious, but they were also doing some like weird, like so like the mom was there with the daughter and the son, and then he's like, oh, do you guys want to roll up? You know, like weed. And they were like, sure. And then the guy was like, he's like, oh, Nancy will do it for us. Like, she's so great. The mom was saying this about her daughter. And I was like, what a weird situation right now. She's like, she's so good at rolling.
Okay.
You know, like, what the hell is going on
That's
right
a good
now? What, story or?
No.
like,
I'm saying like, I mean, that is.
It's very odd.
Yeah,
She was
that's
like,
odd. Yeah.
You know, she's like, and she like patted her. Like, this is no joke. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, this is so odd to me. We're like in a movie, you know. Nancy's so good at doing that, you know. It's like,
Interesting.
and then yeah,
It's a rural place though.
rural, super rural. So it's
Yeah.
like that made sense.
Yeah, I don't know what you do in rural parts of the world, but
That's true. Well, I hear like
actually, even in rural areas, like you said internet, they don't have great access to internet.
that's why you need Starlink.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
So.
Starlink. If you don't know, like satellite internet services. But like, yeah, imagine being in like, so it's like we're talking about echo chambers, right? So if you don't branch outside of your community, you're in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, we were next door neighbors, and then I was brought up Catholic. If all of my friends were Catholic, I'd be in an echo chamber.
Yeah, your world will be just Catholic. Yeah.
You're right. But then and I was like, what religion do you practice? And then they're talking about hell and like saying like anybody that's not Catholic will go to hell. And I was like, whoa, they're just going to go to hell? You know? And I was like, that was odd to me because it's
Right.
like your direct experience is different than what you're being taught.
Mm-hmm.
So then it makes you question your reality. And then in doing that, you've broken the echo chamber, you know? But if you don't venture outside that, you're going to be in an echo chamber of like illusions.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people are stuck in that echo chamber.
Right.
You know? But I guess technically you'd say we're in the echo chamber of non-echo chambers.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like you could turn it in on itself and
Sure.
it's like, oh, you're that progressive thinking, like liberal, whatever, you know, because you're not surrounded by people who,
Okay. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
like
I mean,
blasphemers,
okay.
right? No, but that's literally what they would
Right.
call us. Like
Right.
literally the like the title label would be
from
blasphemers.
from their perspective, yeah.
Right. Weird. So it's like you'll always have both sides like arguing
Or
that the
three
other side's
sides.
evil. I like that. Like your story, my story, God's story. That one. And God's story is really like nobody knows. Like the universe.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Weird to think about.
Yeah, that's weird.
But it does look like we are heading for 6,000 cases a day.
So that was the current predicted projections by December. We would hit 6,000.
Which
so
is
that,
not that far. It's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not that far. And I think that the way Doug Ford was kind of shocked with that number, that I feel like that they need to do a lockdown.
He was shocked by the number. I like literally.
He said that if he had that number a couple of weeks ago, he would have acted differently.
Wow.
So that means he's going to be acting differently. Is that that's what he's saying, right?
True.
So does that mean lockdowns?
Yikes. What was that other thing?
Or at least a 28-day lockdown or something like that.
The Trudeau thing about we only have a limited amount of resources. And I thought he was talking about CRB. And
Yeah,
I
don't want to say too much into it because I don't know. I didn't fully look into what he was talking about, so I don't want to get it like misinformation. But I think like there is a threshold to how much we can help in the sense to. I think he's talking about provinces, like, or it's like because if a province is having way too many cases, we might have to like get involved.
That case. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. So it's like.
And like, yeah.
But that's very militant now. Now we're getting into like.
Yeah, so again, I don't know exactly what they're talking about, but I don't want to get. I think it was something like that. I think that caused. I think Ford was saying like not to come into our province, something like that. Like this is these sort of things. But like, I think that we have to do a lockdown. I don't. I mean, I'm not any expert in this, but like it's
so weird. It's so weird how much like media or like what you pay attention to can really mess up your perspective of the world. Because like I was paying attention to that every single day while I was working, because I was like it directly impacted like what messaging I'd put out as a marketer.
Right. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And then now like getting off of that, and actually my new position, I don't think I'll have to pay attention to that. I'm just so aloof to the whole situation. I'm like, oh, lockdown, all right, cool. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like it's more like ignorance really is bliss. You know?
Yeah.
Because like if you get too much information, sometimes it's like it can just make you go like bonkers, you know? Yeah. Because if I saw that, like I'd be freaking out right now watching. Because I heard like Doug Ford like cried or something like
that. Yeah.
He was like, oh, this is like
or
so
teary
bad.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
For families that are in dire situations. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely bad. No, it's definitely bad, but it's just like sometimes you have to like relax off the gas pedal in terms of information. You know,
if you can't handle it, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. But also at the same time, it's like I kind of feel like I kind of feel like a leaf blowing in a tornado. You know what I mean? Like
okay.
Like you don't know which way this thing's gonna go.
Yeah.
Like I thought I had on my calendar 14th. That like, okay, I'm gonna go back to jiu-jitsu after the 14th, and then like, oh, what happened? Lock back down. You're like, what? Because I hadn't been paying attention. So to me, it feels very like. But at least it's like it's every lockdown period. I'm feeling that now. Whereas every day it felt like, what's going on?
Right.
Like, what are we gonna do next? You know. Yeah, weird stuff. Yeah. How do you feel about the just circle back on this and end on this one? How do you feel about like the ultra liberal, like the progressiveness of the world? So it was okay. So I all right. So let me preface this. So I was watching the Ryan Reynolds Just Friends movie.
Okay.
Recently, and like I heard this on these podcasts before, like Justin Long being like, "Oh, you would not get away with those jokes today," you know, and then like there's some of them are really cringeworthy, et cetera, et cetera. And then I like watched it, and some of the jokes were like really like sexist,
right?
You know, and then some people are like, "Oh, like you're being too sensitive," et cetera, et cetera. And that was my perspective prior to watching the movie.
Okay.
And then watching it again, I'm like, ooh, these are like, this would not fly. But it explains why we use certain vernacular the way we do, because like that's the era we grew up in.
Right.
But then I when watching it, I remembered this great quote, and I'm just gonna read it. It's like, it's the duty of every generation to make the world a better place for the next generation. And it's like, that really rung true when I saw that movie again, because I was like, oh, you could see where our heads were at during that time.
Yeah.
And then now those jokes wouldn't fly. You know. I also watch Holidays as well. With Emma Roberts. And like one thing that like Tara and I were saying that we really liked was how the roles were reversed. Like usually it's the guy who's being the player, and then the girl is the one that's like wants to get with the guy. But they switched it. So like the girl was being the player, and like the guy was wanting to get with the girl. Right. So it's like you can also see the progression here. Yeah. You know, but it makes him feel more inclusive. It's breaking down barriers. And I feel like with this whole like overly liberal thing, it's like I get why they're pushing so hard for it, you know, inclusivity, all that. And I'm a little more conservative than they are. Yeah. But I do respect the fact that at the end of this, the battle will push the needle further in a positive direction.
Yeah.
You know?
I think in general, that generally always happens with any society. I mean, if you look at the 50s versus the 60s versus the 70s, it's like there's always been changes happening.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
so we're still changing in that sense.
Yeah, and fighting for more positivity in the world.
Yeah. Or equal opportunity, I think it's more.
Yeah.
more the thing. Yeah.
So I'd like to say that again. It is the duty of every generation to make the world a better place for the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Super important. Write that down. I'm watching Van Wilder, and that's like the tagline there. Every time he says something like insightful, he's like, write that down.
Okay.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's good in general. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. But I was like kind of against it in the beginning because I was like, oh, why are you trying to change things? What's so bad about those words? And then watching it again, like direct experience, I was like, ooh, that is pretty dark. Like what? Like I'll give you one example.
Okay.
He's like, oh, I love that. Like Ryan Reynolds' character was like, I love that sweater on you. It really brings out your legs. And I was like, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen now, you know? And I was like, ooh, that probably made her feel like she was unequal to him. Am I just a piece of meat?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I was
but
like,
was it done as a joke or was that done as a
no, that's the character.
serious?
That's the character's. That's who he was playing. Like a very overly bravado kind of character.
Right. Is it a comedy movie?
It's a comedy, yeah.
Okay.
But like it's like that's where the head was at that time. It wasn't like they weren't knocking it. That was what successful people did in that movie.
Right.
He was super successful in the way he was acting, so it makes you suggest like, in order to be successful, I gotta act like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But that's what hit me. I was like, ooh, that's weird. And then a bunch of other stuff happened too.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So keep on trucking. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even with that, it's like it comes down to like even with how leaders talk, right? It's like
true. Oh, actually, that's a great point. Because like the actually, yeah, that's a great point. Because Bob asked me that question. He's like, so you'd rather have an open racist or a closet racist? I'm like, so before it was like, yeah, I'd rather have a open racist so you could see your enemy. I've heard that argument so many times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Killer Mike talked about that. I think T.I. talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of people. They're like, I want to know who my enemy is. But then I was like thinking about it, and I responded back like, I'd rather have a closet racist because at least that way there's some like semblance of like civility. So at least you're faking it to some degree. But like if you act openly racist, it's gonna give the green light to anybody that's marginally racist.
Power, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see that point, and I think, I mean, in generality, even in that time, people were probably closeted racists. That
early 90s, you mean?
No. I mean, like earlier, probably was like that when, like as black people were getting more rights and stuff like that. Like it ended up becoming more closeted, I would say. Mm-hmm. But then it also would, I think, like the kids of those closeted would end up changing eventually. It's like, because you've created now, instead of having segregated schools, you're now having mixed schools, right?
Yeah, sure.
Where you get to meet, you have other people or classmates who are of different ethnicities or religion, that it ends up like you end up not becoming like that. Like you don't, and like you know what I mean? Like when you have friends that are different types of people, you're
not an echo
you become
chamber.
you become more open to everybody.
Yeah, totally. Actually, this, speaking of this, I have a question for you. What if you could change one thing in your past, what would you change?
What would I change? Well, I think we've asked this before, right?
Yeah. But I'm asking you again.
Well, I wouldn't change anything.
Why?
Because I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
I totally agree with you. Okay, so I was reading in that book, the Magdalena book. So we always think about slavery in terms of like America.
Uh-huh.
So in that book, it said like slavery accounted for the majority of the world's coffee and like all these other resources, right? But those resources were being shipped back to France. Mm-hmm. They didn't even bring up America. So I was like, this was before America. And I was like, oh, slavery's been going on for a long time.
Oh, yeah, for a long time.
And it's like, we only think about the narrative of like, oh, black people were slaves in America. But it's like, no, they were slaves well before that.
That's true. But also, like, slaves in the term was even before France.
They were talking about black slaves, though, in the book.
Right, specifically about black slaves.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's
no. Europe was the one that started it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But then we never talk about the narrative. Mm-hmm. We're only talking about America. They're fighting for their freedom in America, et cetera, et cetera. It's like that's where the civil rights movement came in.
Well, the thing is, Europe was the one who first started it, but Europe was also one of the first ones to get rid of it.
Okay. And then America
was the last ones to get rid
probably
of it.
because they were profiteering off of it. Like it said, it's like the majority of the world came from these slaves. Like the majority of the profits from like coffee. So I was like, oh no, they were satisfying a need, which is you need coffee beans. So we got to like, you know, instead of giving you guys like adequate wages, which is expensive, we're just not going to pay you. You're going to be our slaves, and then we're going to make money off of you.
Right. I don't want to say too much about France. I don't know exactly the whole history of France and how they dealt with it, because I know there's some issues between France and some of those African nations that they don't technically control now. Like what I've heard is like they still get a lot of money from those African nations that they had taken over.
Okay.
Before.
Interesting.
They still get money from them.
Still now?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. All right.
But not.
But because economically.
Yeah.
So
they have control over it economically.
So the reason why I asked you that question is because like we would literally not be where we are today without our past.
Mm-hmm.
If you changed anything, we would not be here today.
Right.
Because like, you know, like determinism, like, like domino effects, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you take that into account, that's why I like the progressive thinking of like, let's make things better for the next generation.
Yeah.
Totally. But you can't snuff out the past. Like, that is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But we're working towards a better future.
Yeah, you have to address the past.
You have to address the past to move forward into a brighter future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like when I read that in the book, my mind was blown. I was like, I didn't even think about slavery beyond America. Right? Because you're like, because that's the propaganda that they're pushing you, like American slaves. But then it's like, yeah, but before there was America, there was Europe.
Yeah.
And they had slaves there too.
Yeah.
You know? But what really blew my mind was the economics of it. It's like the majority of the world gained their coffee consumption through slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And I drink coffee now. So it's like, I know how important coffee is. So it's like,
right.
One thing in the future that'll be like that too is like cow slaughtering, you know, like I like burgers, but it came from a slaughterhouse, you know, or like chicken slaughtering.
Right.
Like we're going to look back and be like, wow, we genocided animals.
Mm-hmm. Until we get to that point where we can.
The Beyond Meat burger. Lab grown.
It's an interesting thing that's even McDonald's, KFC is doing.
Beyond Meat?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I know. Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
But it's weird though, right?
Yeah.
But then if you actually listen to like hunters talk, like Joe Rogan has a bunch of hunters and they talk about like overpopulation of certain things like hogs, which will eat out entire crops. So it's like you kind of just got to kill them.
Right.
So it's like there is no... It's almost like the chaos of the world is just going and we're trying to create like some sense and order towards it. But like if you zoom out, it's really just a bunch of chaos. We're just like solving problems ad hoc. It's like, oh, there's a overpopulation of hogs. Let's go kill the hogs. But you don't think about the ramification. Oh, that's like hog genocide, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But like who's saying it's overpopulation of hogs? But we are saying that.
Yeah. But yeah. But it's because you're affecting the way we live our lives.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't actually be an overpopulation.
That's right. They're just hogs.
But then the hypocrisy of it all too, or the paradox.
Right.
Hypocrisy, paradox, they're pretty much the same thing. Is like the people that are like tweeting about, you know, going vegan for animal rights causes, they're using iPhones, which has a whole host of other issues related to it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you win one battle, you lose another.
Right.
You know? And I think that's important to think about.
Yeah, well, in order for them to get the message out, they need to use the tools that are already here, right?
But that's why you can't bite the hand that feeds. That's why I always go back to this. Like, you can't bite the hand that feeds. It's like, you like this thing,
right?
You gotta accept it. But make a better way. Sure, fine. Figure it out then. It's like, why are you spending all that time like complaining? Just figure out a better way. You know, like the time the 24 hours.
For me, it's just funny too. Just going back to the Republican thing, it's like they talk about hating on big tech, but they use Twitter.
It made no sense. Exactly.
But they can't
biting the hand that feeds.
They can't use any other platform because Twitter is the biggest thing that you can.
And then people trying to like make it a utility, it's like that makes no sense either. It's like then you're just stomping out profits. Like you're stomping out commerce, because this started as a commercial thing.
Actually, it would be against their own thinking to do that.
America?
Yeah, or at least Republican side, because
they believe in commerce.
Yeah,
they support it. Yeah, exactly.
Freedom of the industry, or like, you know what I mean?
Market.
The market, yeah, freedom of the market. So you getting government hands involved in Twitter or Facebook, it's like then you are for regulation.
Yeah, it's what I mean?
Opposite to you're saying you're not for regulation.
Hypocrisies are just paradoxes. That's gonna be a young Yoda quote right there. Hypocrisies are just paradoxes. But like, yeah, it's weird when you think about that. When you really drill it down into that like perspective, you know, you're just biting the hand that feeds.
Right. Yeah.
And like. And the people that are complaining, like the coalition groups that are like, oh, we're gonna protest for. It's almost like it's like you have a child who sees a mess on the floor, and then they're just gonna cry and cry and cry until somebody cleans up the mess. Whereas the adults who sees a mess on the floor will clean up the mess.
Right.
See what I'm saying? It's like when you protest, what are you serving? Why not just spend that time like developing a foolproof product that will disrupt the industry? The Beyond Meat Burger guy, I'm sure he was spending more time developing the Beyond Meat Burger than protesting. You know what I mean? It's sort of like...
But you could do both.
True, but it's like... But if you're just complaining, if you're just protesting is just a complaint on an open forum. If you're just complaining... You're really just asking other people to solve your problem for you. You're like, I don't like that you're doing it this way. Find a better way. It's like, bro, you find a better way. You're complaining. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it. That, like the point of protesting.
Right. Well, I mean, it's the fundamental roots of...
But it depends on how you protest, though. Oh, what do you mean?
Protest.
True. That's why because they were British and then they left to go start their own thing.
Yeah, but I mean, like even with like Martin Luther King.
Oh,
that's how it's. This is how you got the message.
Right. I was gonna preface what I was saying. So like, protesting is good if it's like if
there's action
if the system
taken
isn't working. If the system isn't working,
right.
So it's like we have a solution. Like Martin Luther King, we have a solution.
But even with Martin Luther King, they would do protests, but at the same time, he was
fighting for
through
legal means. Yeah.
And I think that's what needs. If that's what you're doing, that's what needs to happen. It's both.
But see, like with the Martin Luther King thing, he had a solution. Just give us civil rights. So you had a solution. You're just protesting for that solution to be put in place.
Right.
But I mean, like the people that are protesting and have no solution. So it's like, why are you protesting then? I don't know if I brought this up before, but like the person that was spray painting in Port Union, like lobsters genocide, freaking landlords are like leeches or something like that. Something like super ridiculous. And I was like, I get it. You're very passionate, but like, what is your solution? Like, do you know that taxes from property go to help fund your healthcare system?
Right. I just don't think that that's the majority.
It's the loud minority with a spray can.
Right. And I don't think they will say whatever they want to say, but I don't think that's the majority. Like it's...
Sure, I see that point. Yeah.
Like there is a sane people that do with the protest, that do understand the system that they're in and how you fight through that system.
See,
create change.
A good protest would be like this. Like a meaningful protest would be like this. Let's say you create another way. All right, let's say the Beyond Meat Burger guy. You create Beyond Meat. It's totally safe. And then people are like, we don't want to, we're not like the government's like, we're not going to implement this because it'll disrupt our system. Then you protest being like, you're not letting my product be sold. That makes sense. Because it's like, you have a solution that's just not being passed. So I will protest for it. You know? But if you're just protesting, that makes no sense to me.
Right. But also, it was a weird time when this happened.
Which
we're already home.
Huh?
People don't have jobs.
We have a lot of time on our hands.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you had, what else are you going to do?
That's true.
So it's a different thing. Like, it's a different time when
Yeah,
these
true.
weird
That's true.
types of protests happen now.
Like we were saying, the perfect storm for the BLM movement. Like
Yeah.
people were home. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
I mean, a lot of them, minority is the one that lost a lot of the jobs, right? So, and then it kind of like they could focus more on these other things that were that people couldn't really do when they had jobs.
Because they had to go get money. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the fear, like from the American government. Like we give people money, they stay home, they're not hungry, then they have too much free time to think.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like they're gonna see the holes in our system. Oh,
Possible.
you know. Whereas like a secure government, like Canada's, like, we know you guys will be fine. Here's some money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Till next time. Be sure to check out zenrealclothingco.com for your music needs. And if you decide to pick up some apparel, use offer code Socrates for 20% off select items at checkout. And if you're located in or around, or you're going to be visiting the Port Union Scarborough area, be sure to check out the Port Union Bakery and say what up to Arvil. Be like, hey Arvil, I hear you're a cool guy. That's all. And high five him. Or like elbow five him.
Or Air 5.
Air five him.
Yeah.
COVID times. COVID times are tough. All right, till next time, Bish. Take it easy.
Peace.